is really raging out there.
My quest begins here. My arrows fly true. My quest begins here.
I like where you're going with this. Don't tell the others. I knew you. Nice work out there. Keep up the pressure.
Here.
All swept away!
My quest begins here.
Replacement detected.
Have a good battle, friend. Any defeat that doesn't destroy you makes you stronger. That's what I would have picked.
Liddy Magnet!
Put me back together again! Supreme Executive Power!
Online.
You can turn this around. Seven fresh opponents. Are you ready?
Some things are worth dying for. Time is fleeting, but focus on now.
I've got some fresh recruits for you.
Golden teeth, holding my hat. Golden teeth, holding my hat.
That one might make all the difference. Have a good battle, friend. Any defeat that doesn't destroy you makes you stronger.
Frog hungry.
It's not the strongest, but it'll fight hard. Don't tell the others. I'm rooting for you. Your minions really pulled their weight. It's good to get some minions in play. Great, let's get some better minions in here. You can turn this around.
Mizkif taking an epic court fail as Asmongold gets a giant W. We're going into it today on The Legal Mindset, where we teach you to be your own judge. Of course, I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney.
How about that?
Now, this is something I've been following for a while because this is a fascinating case involving many streamers, their corporations, and really it has ramifications for defamation and also a certain type of claim out there. And we're already setting some precedent here in what's been going down. So I'm going to get into today the nitty-gritty of exactly what went down in the latest filing in the Mizkif case. So anytime you see the language that says plaintiff, just put Mizkif's name in there. He's the guy who has brought this claim against the plethora of people that he thinks have wronged him. Now, of course, amongst those, of course, the prime defendant here is Emiru, who is not off the hook. But even with Emiru, her chances of winning seem to be going up based on the latest filing and what happened. And of course, we have the Roach King over here in his glorious rainbow shirt. He was a defendant in this case, but now things have changed in his favor. So what exactly happened? What exactly went down? Well, first we need to get into this law called the Ending Forced Arbitration of Assault and Harassment.
This is, dude, this was so fucking retarded.
Act, right? So it is a specific act involving a specific type of, once again, legally, right? We're talking about legal definitions here of SA or SH. And this was meant to keep people who signed pre-dispute arbitration agreements from being forced into silence. This is meant to keep victims from being essentially bullied by these agreements, which they may have signed without really thinking about it, or maybe even under duress, or saying, hey, you're not going to get this job or position, or we're not going to enter into this agreement with you unless you sign this. So essentially, this is to stop people, victims, from being bullied and forced into these secretive agreements that might go down during an arbitration, because arbitration has its
private.
benefits,
Yeah.
but one of the things is it isn't as transparent. People don't
Exactly.
get to see what goes on in that arbitration. So that's one of the key things here. And in this case,
Yeah, and keep in mind, it's meant, so this law is meant to protect victims. To protect people that are victims of bad behavior and, harassment and stuff like that. This is for victims.
have to focus on, and the judge specifically focuses on the fact that this was meant to keep victims, underline that, victims from being forced into a secretive arbitration. So, what went down in this latest ruling from the judge in this case? Well, let's look at the exact text here, and this is fascinating. So they go on to say, the judge says, plaintiff, that's Miskiff, claims that the word involving in an SA dispute definition is so broad as to make the EFAA's treatment of SH and SA entirely different. So he's trying to break those things out for his own benefit to make his case. However, both definitions contain broad language involving, related to, but neither sweeps so broadly as to mean the person alleging conduct constituting an SH dispute or SA dispute.
That's right.
I.e., the person who may elect to avoid arbitration is in fact the person accused of or denying either SA or SH. Now, this is huge. What this is saying is that the perpetrator, right, the person who is being...
He was the one that was accused of this bad behavior, and he's trying to use a law that protects victims of the bad behavior. That's the precedent that he was trying to use. It's crazy.
Accused of perpetrating, the person who is not the victim here, but the person who is alleged, right? There's an allegation here
Obviously,
out there
people
that
suffer
that
this.
person can use it to their benefit. The law was constructed to help the victim, not the perpetrator, but the construction that Miskiff wants, he wants this arbitration prevention to work for him as a person who was, once again, allegedly by Amaru in her quote-unquote emotional truth, the perpetrator. And the judge did not buy that at all whatsoever.
That's right.
In fact, they go out to say that we're going to reject that argument and take up the recommendation of the magistrate judge, Susan.
What a fucking surprise. That using a law that's meant to protect victims when you're the one who is being accused didn't work. What a fucking weasel. What a little rat.
Hightower, who gave her recommendations earlier this month. So if you look into this, it says that they adopt the recommendations. So it's ordered that OTK, Mythic, King, their motion to compel arbitration is granted. So they win. So Mythic, OTK, and King, they're getting what they want, which is arbitration. So they're taking a win there. Next, it says litigation of counts 1 and 3 of their complaint is stayed.
Man.
So that's the counts that related to OTK, Mythic, King. So those are stayed pending the arbitration. So now it's got to go to arbitration as to OTK, Mythic, and King.
bad, huh?
Once again, Miskiff can't use this to get out of arbitration. It also says, and here's the catch, that defendant Shunk, that's Amaru's motion to dismiss, is denied. So Amaru does take an L here, and Miskiff does get a tiny W, but there's a but. And you've always got to read the but. But plaintiff Miss Riendo, that's Miskiff, shall submit a more definite statement on or before August 10th. So we're going to have, in just a week or two, or 2 weeks, Raul, at this point, we're going to have him coming forward with this, identifying each statement that Amaru said which alleges to be defamatory. So he's going to have to go and pick out every single specific statement, including exact quotes from her live stream. So before, Mizkif was being vague, saying that, oh, I've been defamed, etc. But he wasn't saying this exactly is the thing. And the judge is agreeing with what we actually said previously on this stream, what others have said, what Asmon said as well, which is what exactly did these people say, Asmon, Amaru, etc., what did they say that is defamatory? Now, Asmon, as we're going to see, is out of this, but even as to Amaru, the judge needs more than what Mizkif has given so far. Then he's...
That's right. That's right. Vindicated, let's go. I know.
He's got to say, how is it untrue?
Too bad, right?
Because if a statement is true, then, well, it can't be defamatory.
That's correct.
And the last part is how it harms him. So even if he's able to say, okay, here's a quote, this is not true, but if it has no harm, then it's not going to be something
damages.
that's going to be actionable, right? So now he's got to jump through all of these hurdles, even with Amaru. So while he gets that W, he's got to put in work, him and his lawyers, to go through with each statement and say exactly how that harms him.
That's
that's
crazy.
going to be a little bit of a challenge for him, and let's see how his lawyers and him come up with that response. The other thing here is that Asmon gets the win. It's finally ordered that defendant Hoyt's amended motion to dismiss count is granted. So, boom, Asmon gets the W. However, it's dismissed without prejudice, and that's signed July 10th by Robert Pittman, U.S. District Judge. So just...
Oh, jeez, guys. Oh, man. It looks like suing somebody after that person comes out and says that there are other people that want to accuse you of something, and I'd be willing to fund their legal bills so they'd be able to do it with a degree of security. It turns out that suing a person so they can't do that.
Going out there.
Oh, man. Maybe it didn't work out too well. That's too bad. How about
Down
that?
a minion and up a gold.
In case you guys don't know, and this is very important for you guys to understand with any legal case, there's with prejudice and without prejudice. In the legal context, without prejudice really means without loss or waiver or any right or privileges.
Yeah.
So in this case, that means that it is possible, theoretically, hypothetically, it is possible that Mizkif could refile later against Asmongold. So while Asmongold's
They can lose twice.
case is dismissed, it is possible if there were some new facts or something else came out or there was some
Also,
discovery.
by the way, like the fact that you getting the shit dismissed is like it didn't even get past the first stage.
That came out. It is possible that he could come back and try to swing against Asmon again. Now, I don't think that's a wise choice. I don't think that's going to be a winning strategy. But of course, we don't know yet. There may be more discovery where he'll try to find a fact and come against Asmon again.
Sure.
So let's turn over to my judgment here. So in judgment, Asmongold has been completely cleared at this point, right? Until we get, until and unless there's more secret facts out there, there's something we don't know. Asmongold's off the hook. OTK, Mythic
that?
King, they get a W with compelling arbitration. And then Mizkif now needs to specifically go through, do the work with his lawyers, and explain how each statement was defamatory, how it was false, and how it harms him. That's going to be a significant hurdle for Mizkif. And then Mizkif still has a chance. So I don't want to say at this point, once again, you never know with cases. They can take wild and crazy turns. So I want to be conservative here in my assessment, saying, yes, it is possible that Mizkif could find some facts and come against Asmongold again. It's possible he could prevail against Amaru. But at this point, his window for victory...
It's not what I would bet on. So far, it's not what I would bet on.
Victory is narrowing. It's becoming harder and harder for Mizkif. And this is the point at which I would say to Mizkif, are you really committed to taking this all the way, or would a settlement really make you happy, bro? Would you be okay with some form of settlement, maybe an Emeru apology saying, hey, I framed this in a bad way.
It's not going to happen.
Shouldn't have said this way. Maybe I should have framed this in a different way, right? Maybe it shouldn't have been my emotional truth. Maybe I should have framed this in a more objective and neutral way. Maybe something like that, a settlement, maybe a payment. Who knows? Is that an option that might be better for you or better for all parties? I would say, look, Mizkif, your window is closing. Asmongold has already gotten that W over you. How far are you willing to take this? But I want to know what you guys think in the comments below, and I will catch you on the next one.
How's it narrowing if the judge approved it to the next step? Isn't that the opposite? It's because he basically didn't define it correctly, and the judge wants to have a more definitive, like, that's part of Emmy's case and not mine. So, like, I'm not going to really make a lot of comments on that. I'm only really going to talk about, like, my situation. And my situation was actually really, really simple. And to the extent that anything else comes out, I think that it will only further entrench this problem. Like, there's a lot of things, like, right now, you know, again, out of respect for other people's privacy, there are a lot of things that are not public, but when they are made public, I think they'll be very revealing. I think they will be, just like the other things have been revealing. Like, for example, the Discord DMs were revealing. You know, things like, for example, like some of the stuff in the other court filings were also revealing. And so there's been a whole lot of this. And that's really about it. And so checking the claims now, since it'll be worse if the judge caught the silence attempt. Yeah, tried and failed. Exactly. So let me look at here. Wrath of the Roach King. The thumbnail goes hard. Exactly, right? And yeah, there it is here. 7 legal video. Can't use the word sexual harassment and sexual assault. I mean, that's for YouTube, right? That's the reason why. And step 1, do fucked up shit. Step 2, attempt to punish anyone who mentions it. Yeah, and it's not going to work out. And it already hasn't. I think that's very clearly what's happened. So the judge wants clear evidence. I think that in order to file a lawsuit, you have to have a very definitive and a defined mode of, like, problematic behavior, right? And so you can't just go off of a vibe. You have to, like, whenever you're talking about something like defamation, for example, you have to have a bunch of different standards to meet. Like, the actual, like, because, again, not getting the case dismissed is, like, a super, super early, like, that's like, if you get the case dismissed, it's like, it's basically just bullshit, right? So there are multiple other levels that a case has to go through in order to reach a trial, and then actually then winning the trial is another one. So it's like, kind of, you have a lot more to go through than just, like, one specific thing. And there's a long, yeah, it's a very, very long process. And something not getting thrown out immediately is, like, not really that big of a deal. What do you think will happen in the Emeru case? I'm not gonna, I mean, out of respect for her and everything, and I'm not gonna make comments on that. So yeah, that's it. And does Miz have to pay her lawyer fees or nope? No, he doesn't. Well, he might be able to or might have to, but at the current point in time, according to, like, my legal counsel, they said that I was not going to be able to recoup the fees, and so I'm going to have to pay those myself. And so that's really about it. I mean, like, and to me, like,
toll was built by the enemy.
June 9th, 1944. Allied troops in Normandy have moved inland. The work of the U.S. Navy and Coast Guard and the combined Allied sea forces has been done. Work not without a price in men and materiel. It all began many months earlier. In Chesapeake Bay and other sections of the American coast, untested sailors and soldiers learned the task of getting from ship to shore. But that time, the shore was a friendly one. Then, with part of their training finished, they left the United States. Late in the winter and all through the spring, the great convoys moved eastward across the Atlantic. Aboard all the transports, life was the same. The troops relaxed and waited for the voyage to end. All along the coasts of Great Britain that spring, the training went on. Navy and Coast Guard landing barges practiced landing operations day and night. Meanwhile, the larger landing craft, LSTs and LCIs, carried on their maneuvers, learning to land at a given spot at a certain time. Through all the days of preparation, Allied planes, thousands of them, continued to soften enemy defenses and communications in daily raids. Off the southern coast of England, thousands of ships from all Allied nations are preparing for the invasion signal. Navy and Coast Guard crews make last-minute preparations. When the K-rations come aboard, everyone knows that D-Day is drawing near. Somewhere in southern England, troops embark on LCVPs to be ferried to the waiting transports offshore. June 5th. The LCIs are loaded. The next time these men step ashore will be on an enemy beach. There's only a little time left to relax. And the bombing attacks of the Air Force are intensified. Now the raids are continuous. At ports of embarkation, the troops prepare themselves for their greatest battle. A Coast Guard officer briefs his men, and all along the coast, sailors receive their final instructions. At last, the ships leave the coastal waters and move out into the channel. The slow LSTs loaded with heavy equipment. The transports loaded with men. Fast warships screen the mighty invasion fleet from enemy raiders. At 15:30, a Coast Guard flotilla of LCIs leaves, loaded with engineers, medical corpsmen, and infantry. D-Day approaches, and the ships are in their assigned positions. For some of them, like the Coast Guard manned transport Chase, it is the fourth invasion in European waters. The only planes overhead are friendly. From the 83-foot Coast Guard rescue boats to the Navy's powerful battle wagons, the invasion fleet is moving towards France. And below decks, officers study the maps that mark the invasion beachheads on the coast of Normandy. Some of the landing barges are stopped by concrete obstacles built far out in the water by the enemy. Offshore, the larger landing craft approach the beachhead slowly.
Sure thing.
Not enough minerals. Not enough minerals. Not enough minerals.
Aboard the LCIs, the troops prepare to land. The beach is still empty, and the crossfire of German guns still rakes the shore. Out of enemy firing range, the LSTs wait to move in until the beaches are cleared. The arrival of motorized
Not enough
equipment marks the
minerals.
end of the first phase of the landing. The LCIs, their first loads of men now on the beaches, go out to the transports to ferry more troops inshore. Still waiting beyond gun range, the LSTs unload supplies on smaller LCTs.
What's going on?
Heavier equipment is transferred to giant rhino ferries, flat-bottomed barges that will land it ashore. And reinforcements arrive, thousands of men.
What's going on?
I'm on it. Gangway coming through.
Defeated and disarmed, the first German soldiers captured in France wait until someone has time to evacuate them.
Yeah.
Out in the channel, the rescue boats of the Coast Guard are looking for survivors and aiding damaged vessels. And the hospital ships are waiting for the wounded. Another Coast Guard manned LCI, badly crippled,
Not enough
could not reach the shore,
better be.
and its wounded are removed. The beach is firmly in Allied hands now, and the vast extent of the operation is visible. Silent evidence of the fierce battle is apparent everywhere.
Command center upgrade complete.
Go, go, go! What's up? Been waiting on you.
Go ahead.
But in a few days, many of the damaged ships will be afloat again.
Will do.
Armed and ready.
Bad news.
Now, more and more troops move inland to push the enemy back.
Not enough minerals. Not enough minerals. Not enough minerals.
And the LSTs land their cargoes on
Not
the
enough
beach.
minerals. Not enough minerals.
Barges built especially for the Normandy operations are left on the shore
Command
to be
center
unloaded.
upgrade complete.
During the daytime, there are only Allied planes in the air. But at night, German bombers harass the beachhead and drop mines
Right on.
offshore.
Yeah, whatever.
Out of sunken block ships, artificial harbors have been built. Until a port is won from the enemy, these must handle all Allied shipping. Bad weather came after the fighting on the beaches was over.
Add-on complete. Insufficient rescue gas.
The heavy storm left a trail of damaged ships.
SCV ready.
Once again, the landing barges moved out into the channel,
Go ahead.
this time loaded with German prisoners.
What's going on? In the rear with the gear. SCV ready.
This better
In
be
England,
good.
prisoners board a Coast Guard transport,
Up, ready to go.
and ships which have carried thousands of American soldiers overseas
SCV ready.
now return westward with a different cargo, with men who were beaten and captured in Normandy.
Job, huh?
It's the one place that intrigued me was my first trip to London and the House of Parliament in Big Ben. Now, these pictures, you must remember, are more than a quarter of a century old. Now, the thing that amused and entertained our boys who were stationed all over England
SCV ready.
was Westminster Abbey. And there were quite a few Americans who came there to see the sights and see Westminster Abbey. And these are the scenes that I wanted to photograph on one Sunday afternoon. Another area that intrigued me was Marble Arch.
Additional supply depots.
Marble Arch on one Sunday afternoon was full of people. You must remember that London was being bombed almost every night in this particular time. And I was photographing these speakers that were addressing the crowds. Every speaker was speaking on a different subject, but the police stood around and watched. As long as there were no arguments, any strong arguments, nobody was hurt. And the people in the audience were arguing back with the speakers. But these were just typical shots of how we passed the time waiting for D-Day. Most of the children who lived in England, or a great many I should say, were sent out of the city. But a lot of them had to remain behind. But in spite of a war, they managed to find entertainment.
Standing by. Course set.
I was rather surprised to see these children drinking out of community drinking cups that were changed to the fountain. And I'd like to make candid shots of these children so they didn't notice me. But every once in a while they did. But this youngster is taking a cool drink on a beautiful Sunday afternoon. And we discovered that the St. Paul's Cathedral had been hit several times, but not badly damaged. And of course, one of the other attractions was Buckingham Palace and the gates, which were protected by British troops, not in the bearskin hats which they wore in peacetime, but in full war uniform. And this is the way they paraded up and down. They weren't performing for the camera, but they were actually doing their duty. If you notice the barrage balloons in the background, London had barrage balloons all over the area. And it was said that if it wasn't for the barrage balloons, with all the equipment that was being brought into the country, that the islands would sink into the sea, but the barrage balloons, they said, was holding it up. You must remember, too, that food was pretty scarce in London at this time, and it was being brought in whatever way they could and being unloaded. But it isn't often you get a bright day like this in the spring in London, and this was an opportunity to show what the soldiers were doing while they were waiting for the invasion. This is Fleet Street. Discovered this Irish policeman guarding the street, and we saw considerable damage in the area. But soon, we were down on the south coast of England, where we met some of the other correspondents who were scheduled to cross the channel with us. And you'll probably recognize some of the old-timers who covered the war at that particular time. I was given a shovel to defend myself, and it proved to be a valuable instrument. And here we see Larry LeSueur of CBS. Larry LeSueur was covering the war for CBS, and so was Wertenbecker on the left, Jack Thompson of the Chicago Tribune, Ernie Pyle here. And this is a close-up of Jack Thompson. And this is O'Reilly, Larry O'Reilly of the Associated Press. This is Wertenbecker, and we're saying our farewells because we were expected to meet again in Paris.
Ready to raise some hell.
Here on the left we see Clark Lee of INS and Bill Stoneman, who came from Chicago, from the Daily News. And several other of the correspondents were being boarded aboard a military truck to be taken to the south coast. And we went through small British towns, and life was going on as usual. People were in the marketplace buying food, and as though nothing was going on. But after a 150-mile ride, that's how we felt, riding in an army vehicle. We found Plymouth was pretty badly damaged. A lot of the buildings were completely destroyed, but this was found all over the area. Soon we were approaching the dock area, and we found these American jeeps ready to be boarded aboard landing craft, and you notice the bars that are attached to their bumpers. And they're designed to cut wires that the Germans had a habit of putting across the road that would sometimes cut off the head of the drivers. We weren't allowed to wander around the area by ourselves. Each crossroad point was under guard of both an American and a British soldier. And if they wanted to see what you had in your bedroll, you had to show it to them. But this is the care that was taken that the secret of the invasion be kept as long as it could. These are the two men, Wes Carroll of the OWI and Pete Carroll, the Wes Haynes rather, who were with me, and we went aboard an LCI number 5. Pete Carroll here came from Boston, and he was a photographer for the Associated Press. We tried to keep our mind off what was coming, and we knew it was going to be a short time before we would be on board. We had our first taste of K-rations, which didn't taste bad if you were hungry. And we also were able to see the beautiful countryside in that area. And these are the sort of shots I wanted to bring home to show my family and friends.
In the rear with the gear.
Pete Carroll was using some of his film to make a few shots himself. And soon, we were down at the docks. And there we found units of the 101st Airborne Division carrying everything they could carry by hand, boarding landing craft that were so heavily laden they had to be pushed off the docks by trucks, as you see in this manner. And these men were being taken out to larger craft and boarded for the invasion. And here we see several units carrying grenades, bazookas. They didn't have an opportunity to load this aboard jeeps that were not fully available at this particular moment. We were aboard a fleet of LCIs, and here shown with the commander of the invasion group to the center, and the captain on the right, rather the captain of our ship, Lieutenant Patton, was in command of the LCI number 5, and we found out that he participated in several invasions in the Mediterranean area. And we felt rather confident that he knew what he was doing. But we stayed aboard this ship for almost 5 days. This is the commander of the squadron.
Upgrade complete.
I remember Lieutenant Patton's name well because we were with him so long. Wes Haines was trying to get ready for the trip into Paris. I think he was premature. And these are units of the 101st Airborne Division aboard our landing craft, amusing themselves. And I don't have to tell you who this man is imitating. He was a Notre Dame football player at one time, and I was told later on that he was killed in the action. Of course, every ship had a mascot, and ours was no different, but the boys provided for their mascot's welfare. Just the making of a life preserver, just like the ones that they wore themselves. And then, one afternoon, Lieutenant Patton briefed the crew and told them that we would be sailing that afternoon. And they let out a cheer because this is the job they were waiting for. They wanted to get it done and go home. And here we see the LCI number 4 with the commander moving out into the channel. And this was a tremendous sight to see ships from one end of the horizon to the other. Ships of all kinds. They tell me there was well over 1,000 ships. But even so, we thought this was just another exercise. As we continued on, we felt that we'd be turned around, go back and try again another day. But when we continued on into the night, we knew it was the real thing. At one time, we had a bit of a scare. They said there was a submarine in the area, and one of the DE boats threw some bombs into the channel. And they exploded, but we never saw any attack at all. Here are some scenes actually taken close to the beach, where the ships made a right-angle turn and headed for the area where we were to land.
Vespine Geyser exhausted.
That is a DE boat in the distance. And, of course, we were on the alert for any kind of attack, even airplane attacks.
Upgrade.
Fortunately, our Air Force did their job well.
Upgrade
and
complete.
at no time did I know of a German attack, except after we had landed, 2 planes attempted to strafe the beach. And I happened to be in the area. Now, these are some scenes that I took with my camera that was reduced to 16 millimeter. This particular scene of these men going ashore was taken by an automatic camera aboard a British landing craft. And they were the first men to land. The reason they was taken by an automatic camera was because they wanted to have a record of what happened should the landing fail. At least they might have a record if they were able to recover the film of what happened and how to avoid it if they had to try another attack. But here are some scenes landing on the Utah beach, and this is the way we went ashore. This is, again, is at the British beach, but you notice the men didn't dash ashore after being aboard a landing craft for 5 solid days. They just walked slowly and cautiously, fearful of bombs and mines that were sown in the area. You notice they had their rifles wrapped in cellophane. But this is the way we had to go ashore. Here is Pete Carroll and Wes Haines carrying our own equipment, and the ship is grounded on the beach. The section of the beach we were on was being attacked by enemy fire, and in the previous shot you could see a bomb actually land not too far from where we were. There it is again. The bulldozers were trying to clear roads to let our jeeps and tanks move forward. And even though it was June, the area was quite cold, as it usually is in that part of Normandy. Of course, the men dug their foxholes a little deeper, and we had the good fortune of finding a concrete wall, which helped serve as protection. But even now, we're taking some of our wounded back to the beach so they can be transferred back to England. But when the tide went out, the ships could not come in close, or those that went aground had to wait for the high tide to be refloated if they weren't hit. We stayed on the beach the first night and lived in a foxhole. And soon we showed some of the first prisoners taken in the area late the first day who were captured close to the beach and was sent back to England because there was no room to keep them there. This is our first command post, where General Collins on the left is talking to some of his officers. And we were able to get some of the first hot food at this place, and I didn't realize how hungry I was until I saw these pictures. There's Larry LeSueur again, and Bob Landry on the right. Bob Landry was covering the war for Time and Life. And although it kept me very busy for 8 solid days, I used up all the film I had and decided to go back to France to get some more and probably to get a bath. I hadn't had my clothes off during that entire time. And my landing at England took place at a place near Bournemouth. It almost looks like the cliffs of Dover that everyone is familiar with. But it was a beautiful sight to see the coast of England and know that I could get some rest after a while. But didn't realize it at that time that the buzz bombs would start coming over, and here we see some of them flying over the English coastline. And these buzz bombs were a terror weapon. They didn't know where they would land, but the British were quick to set up machine guns and anti-aircraft fire to knock them out of the sky, and they managed to shoot down quite a few. They even sent planes up into the sky to knock them out of the air. And, of course, sometimes they did get through, and where they fell, they caused considerable damage. But you must have missed that pretty good shooting. There's one actually coming down, and it landed in the London area, and wherever they landed, they caused considerable damage. My second crossing of the Channel was made on an LST, and this time with units of the 3rd Armor Division that was sorely needed because they were bringing over more tanks and vehicles to carry us in the direction of Cherbourg, because we needed a port badly. The LST was manned by a British crew. That's the captain in the British uniform. But we were in a long convoy of many of them, everyone loaded to the gills with equipment that was sorely needed. But here you'll get an idea of what the beach looked like, and these ships are actually waiting for the tide to recede so they could send their equipment ashore without going through deep water. On D-Day, they had to go through the deep water. And at this particular moment, they're waiting for the ramps to be rebuilt after a severe storm so they could go ashore without damage. Now, you can see the problems they had on D-Day, because when the landing craft hit the sandbars, the men started wading ashore and found deeper water ahead, and those that had their life preservers too low around their waist turned turtle, and many were drowned. But these are units of the 3rd Army heading in, crossing the deep spot just ahead of them, and headed toward Cherbourg itself. This was a remarkable sight, and the ships were lined up as far as the eye could see, bringing supplies ashore. We needed Cherbourg badly because we thought we could use it as a port, but we found that Cherbourg, shown here, was pretty badly destroyed by the Germans themselves. They destroyed the docks, which we thought we could use, and it took them, if I recall, almost 2 months before we could bring a ship in. They set up
Enemy defeated.
I follow. Have you done this before?
Elimination complete. Double kill. Select attack. Kill confirmed. Killing spree. Your killing spree has ended.
change.
Vital signs negative. Enemy hero terminated.
Have you done this before?
Select a talent. Hero unresponsive. Initializing respawn.
You will not exterminate me.
Select a talent. Enemy hero terminated.
Have you done this before? Change.
Updating mortality statistics. Select a talent. Elimination complete. Vital signs negative. Enemy defeated. Double kill.
Have you done this before?
Kill confirmed. Select a talent. Your killing spree has ended. Killing spree.
Hold your tongue. Goliath online.
Vital signs negative. You have destroyed a fort.
Not entirely worthless.
Enemy defeated. Kill confirmed. Encouragement activated. You will do better next time. Select a talent. Enemy keep annihilated. Elimination complete. You have been slain. hero terminated. Hero terminated. Double kill. Triple kill. Quad kill. Mega kill. Killing spree. Victory. MVP.